So I just want to give a brief introduction before I turn it over to Jennifer. Um, some of you may know her well, but she serves as the head pastor of the Manna community. She served with the Manna community for more than a decade as a lay chaplain before she was ordained to the Episcopal priesthood 4 years ago, and now she works full-time with the community. She also helps facilitate the Back Home Council, which is a council of people with lived experience of homelessness who advise the mayor of Boston on shelter reform and housing stabilization. Before becoming a priest, Jennifer worked as a registered nurse for more than 30 years, including leading mobile medical clinics in Haiti and as a staff nurse at the Boston Healthcare for the Homeless. Jennifer has a passion for accompanying and caring for people who live on the margins and believes they have something to teach us about life, love, and God. And now I will turn it over to you, Jennifer, and I will drive your slides. So let me know if you want me to start right now. Yes?
Yeah, well, let me say hello first. That would be, and then I'll let you know, Wendy. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here tonight with all of you, and I see lots of familiar faces and a couple of cute dogs too. So I'm really glad that that you've asked me here to talk about this really important situation of hunger and food scarcity that exists all over the world and in our city and in our neighborhoods, and to connect it to our faith. And that for me is what drives my desire to be downtown every day and to be with folks that are really on the margins. And I love not just centering this conversation around faith, but also to the season of Advent, because the season of Advent maybe is my second most favorite. I really love the season of Lent, but Advent holds such promise, and the work that I do downtown, I feel, is really incarnational, and so Advent really is a great time to be talking about hunger and food scarcity and how to live incarnationally into relieving that kind of suffering for folks. So I'm really grateful to be here and bring gratitude from the Manna community. So I put together just a little presentation in ways that for me connects this to the season of Advent, this conversation. And we're a fairly small group, so I'm hoping it'll be conversational and not just me talking at you. So I don't mind being interrupted a little bit, for comments and things like that, because actually some of the slides I'd love for you to pick out some things that we can talk about. And then I don't know, Wendy, about the breakout groups, but there are 3 questions on that slide, and it might be it might be great to see if we could be divided into 3 groups so that all 3 questions are addressed, if that's possible.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see what's possible. It is the season of Advent. So go ahead, Wendy, if you want to drop the first slide. So I'd like to frame this and calling it a journey into Advent with Mary, and what is she hungry for? That for me, Mary is a central part of this season of Advent as we travel with her into the Annunciation and into the incarnation of Jesus, and all the things that Mary needs to be concerned with as she takes this journey on. And so I've named this presentation A Journey into Advent with Mary. And so just as we start to get into this, maybe be thinking to yourselves, what is Mary hungry for? And as we go through the slides, you'll see that we have Mary of first century Palestine and a more contemporary Mary. So So just be holding in your hearts that question, what is Mary hungry for? Go ahead, Wendy. So I want to bring greetings from the Manna community. This is Ken. Many of you know Ken. Ken was on the streets for about 15 years and received housing about 3 years ago and is doing quite well and is one of the folks that helps in the kitchen. He makes a lot of coffee and he pretty much runs the kitchen with a couple of other folks. And when we come back from breakout groups, I'd really like to think through with all of you about how we can connect more deeply so that you can be in relationship with Ken. We are super grateful for the food that you all make in your own spaces and bring to us. It's one of the only all vegetarian meals that we have, and it is a favorite of many, especially those who are sometimes on other weeks sort of left out of the vegetarian center, that that we have folks that come in and sometimes on other weeks can't eat the meal because they are strict vegetarians, and your meal provides that each month for us. And so we are very grateful. And the evolution of going from when we started this with Ginny, that we went from every other month to you all providing not just the hot meal, but other things as well, with the, excuse me, the salad and bringing the water and all of that, which is so important. And the folks really love this casserole, this taco casserole that you make. And when it hits the table hot and wonderful, folks are really, really enjoying it. And so we are very, very grateful for your contribution every month for that. So please know that your hard work is feeding the bellies of our folks, and also their spirit, that they know that you care for them and that you love them. And if you have ever been in the room when we say that the meal is provided by All Saints Brookline, there's a big round of applause. So please know that. Go ahead, Wendy. So I love this icon, I'll call it, this icon of Mary, sort of in the wilderness and with the light of Christ in her belly. And for me, this represents Mary on a journey, and a journey through the wilderness. And I chose this quote from John O'Donohue, who some of you might know, and I'll just read it aloud. When you regain a sense of your life as a journey of discovery, you return to rhythm with yourself. When you take the time to travel with reverence, a richer life unfolds before you. Moments of beauty begin to braid your days. And I imagine that when Mary found herself with child, and Mary's willingness to say yes to that Mary understood she was on a journey of discovery. And sometimes I think that because the world is as hard as it is, that we can sometimes forget that we're on a journey of discovery and get bogged down with the suffering of the world and lose sight of the fact that each day is a gift, and that we have promise in God to watch our lives unfold. And when we sink back into that, when we sink back into the idea that God is leading us, and leading us on a journey that we don't know, an uncertain journey, that we can be called back to the rhythm of ourselves. And I love the fact that this quote talks about traveling with reverence, that just Mary's stance in this icon speaks to me of Mary's reverence as she's taking this journey with God, and a journey of such uncertainty and unknowing, and the trust that she has to have in order to do that. Wendy? So Mary is carrying the Son of God. I always have to pause after I think of that. And as she travels to see her cousin Elizabeth, what kind of hospitality will Mary need along the way? And who do you imagine will provide that hospitality? So I wonder what you notice in this painting. What are some of the things that you notice? Just call them out. I guess you all have to unmute.
They're all women.
Nice.
The Holy Ghost is there.
Mm.
It's kind of a barren looking landscape in the distance.
Mhm.
The light is focused on the two women.
In
They have-
addition,
Oh, sorry, Roberta. I was just saying they have bread and flowers and wine or water. Can't quite tell.
I can't tell.
yes, I was struck by the flowers.
Mm.
And the Holy Ghost, I assume, is looking down at Mary, and
Same.
at least it appears that way.
The look on Elizabeth's face.
Mm.
So who in this painting is providing hospitality for Mary? Just Elizabeth?
No.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, they all are. Yeah. Without question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary needs a community around her to
Mhm.
provide hospitality, right? That in Mary's vulnerability and on her journey, and we talked about, somebody mentioned the barren landscape, that we don't know really what Mary's journey would have been like during that time, but we know that anytime somebody's vulnerable and traveling through life, with the uncertainty that she was managing, and the things that we need as humans, that we need community around us, and the importance of this in this particular painting, it is all women, and the need not just for basic human needs of food and water, but also comfort and love and friendship. And the idea of hospitality, I think, is really important to and central to our work at Manna. That we're not simply providing food, but we're providing what is being represented in this painting here is community, and that's important. And you're part of our community in the ways that you connect with us. Go ahead, Mary. Wendy. So this is a stark change from the Mary of first century Palestine in the paintings. This quote that you see on the left, a homeless girl bears Jesus, your blessing, who turns the whole world upside down. That is a phrase that we say in our Manna Eucharist, our Manna Eucharistic prayer, that that we believe that a pregnant homeless girl is bearing Jesus, and that that not only turns Jesus turns our world upside down, but the idea that that this woman in this picture is also carrying God. And this woman is pregnant and hungry. Wendy? So now I want you to imagine that this is Mary's journey now. That stark landscape is turned into this snowy, frigid, maybe street of Boston, with Mary, pregnant Mary, homeless and pushing this cart. Maybe she sleeps outside. Maybe she stays in a shelter. And maybe she's on her way to Manna for Monday lunch. So what do you imagine this Mary needs when she arrives at Manna?
To get warm.
Yeah.
To be with other
Mhm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Protection of her treasures.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And her hunger, feed her hunger.
What is her hunger? What do you imagine her hunger to be?
Well, probably all of the things we've said so far, in a way.
Say that she's accepted without judgment, that, her conditions, people don't judge. That's just.
I imagine she's hungry for connection.
Mm.
She seems to be moving so fast
Mm.
that this and oblivious to what I would find to be a winter wonderland.
Mm.
And sort of a sad situation, not being able to not seeing beauty in that, but rather apparently a dogged effort to get someplace.
Right.
Yeah,
In
it's
this
more like everything in her cart, it's so heavy. It's not that she's moving fast. She's using all of her weight to push everything that she has to get to Manna. And she's all alone in this picture. Mary.
But she
Right.
may or may not want conversation, companionship. It seems to me the most important thing is some sense of being loved and support, whatever that means for her.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And acknowledged. Yeah. Being able to accept what's offered to her at Manna without having to feel like she needs to give something back, and just being able to accept what is given her without question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be really challenging. That folks who are in situations like this feel an awful lot of shame, and to arrive at a place freezing cold, pushing your cart of belongings. We can't imagine what their life has been like up to this point. And this woman may have had a job and a place to live and a family of her own, and then whatever circumstances came upon her, lost that and is now in this situation. And so folks come in. I like that somebody said, not to be judged coming in, because it's hard for folks to come in, especially on a day like this where it's cold and snowy and it's just drudgery to get anywhere. And it's so interesting that somebody pointed out that, to some of us, a nice walk on a snowy day is beautiful.
Mm.
It's really beautiful. And yet to this person, they're just trying to get to the next place so that they can get inside and get warm and find some food and hopefully stay for a little while.
And it doesn't look like she really has anything too warm on her feet either. I think it's just a pair of sneakers getting soaked.
And all the stuff in the cart's getting soaked too.
Mm.
I think the cart is pretty tough to push in that snow as well.
Yes.
That try and push anything in snow.
If you've ever gone to the grocery store on a snowy day, you know what it's like to push outside to your car.
It's interesting that we have talked so much about they don't want to be judged, but what about the other question of judging society? Are they the ones who should be judged at all?
Mm.
It's a great question. That's a great question. And the fact that we have folks living outside like this, that it's easy to point fingers at our policies and our government that allows people to live outside like this. It's easy for us. It's easy for me to judge, the city of Boston, who lets people stay outside like this. And yet folks who are outside do feel as though they are being judged. It's a natural progression of shame that, that goes along with the way folks are treated. So I want to just take a minute to check in with ourselves and how we're feeling, because it's a real contrast from going from Holy Mary, carrying the Son of God, and the stories that we know and love about this holy person who made this journey, and as we anticipate the birth of Jesus, and think about that we are all children of God, and this person in this picture, pregnant and trying to find a way through life, just the way Mary, first century Palestine Mary, did too, and think about the ways that we can receive people. Especially folks who are really marginalized and living like this. Wendy?
And then adding to that too is the number of them who, with the mental health issues, where people are reaching out and trying to help them and get them off the street, and they refuse the help. They may not still be judged, but it's difficult, I know, for those of us to understand why don't they want the help that's offered to them.
Right. That's a great segue into, I think, this question that I'd like to think about. This is Sprout Hall. This was this past Thanksgiving. that we spent together. And for me, I think about how is Jesus calling us into relationship through nourishment of body, mind, and spirit. That when there are folks, you're absolutely right. There are folks that are either too ill or trying to manage things that don't allow them to be inside. So there are folks who will stay outside because they are afraid of being inside, that even a warm shelter bed can be a place of danger for folks, that there's a lot of assault and theft in the shelters. And folks have in acute mental illness have terrible social anxiety and can't be in a room with 150 people. People are afraid. They have sometimes paranoia, and maybe are too sensitive to lots of noise. Folks with terrible trauma that have been around domestic violence situations and things like that, they just cannot be in a room with that many people. And if any of you have been down to Monday lunch, you know it's a loud space. And so sometimes that's just impossible for people. And so they choose to stay outside, unfortunately.
Jennifer, what happens to I know their possessions mean everything to them. They have so little that they hold on to it. And I can't remember, what do they do with their possessions in their baskets when they come in for lunch? Do they leave them in that out on the driveway
So,
there?
well, so the most of them don't. On a regular basis, there are only about, I would say on average 5 or less people that bring in big carts. Sometimes they bring in bicycles. Sometimes bring in the shopping carts that aren't like the grocery store shopping carts. And most of them just bring in a lot of bags. And so we encourage them to keep their things with them, because things are so often stolen.
Yeah.
If they have big carts and things, that they generally choose spaces on the side, the side of the room, so that they can stay with their things. Even in a space like ours, people could walk away with a bag of somebody else's, and we wouldn't realize it, because there are so many things in the room, that so they know that they need to keep their belongings with them. Yeah. So one of the things that feels important to talk about tonight, and maybe we can talk more after we come back from breakout groups, is the importance of being in relationships with folks that help us. That I do believe that folks that are living on the margins, and specifically the folks that I work with, have a lot to teach us. And being in relationship with them is really important. So that's part of the nurturing and nourishing that's important at a program like ours. That eating at table with people and getting to know folks is really enriching for the people at Manna, and it's enriching for all of us who don't live in the circumstances that they live. That they have a relationship with God that is so deep and so profound, and teach me all the time about what it means to be in relationship with God. And rely on God, and in ways that, because of my resources, I don't really have to do. And so I'm so grateful to be able to be taught by folks downtown about connection with each other, and in a spiritual realm that for a lot of us that have a lot of resources, have a hard time connecting to. And so So we're always wanting folks to be in relationship with us through our partnerships. That's really important to the folks at Manna, but it's also, I think, important to the church. It's important to the church. Wendy? So here are the 3 questions I'd like us to think about, and it would be great if we could, do 3 breakout groups. So each of us have one of these questions. Each group has one of these questions because I think they're all really important. So I know that for your Advent study, you're doing a few weeks on what it means to tackle some issues of hunger and food insecurity, and I'm wondering how you all think your congregation can go deeper into those issues, and how can the people of Manna help you do that? They really are our teachers, and how can they help your congregation understand you're already in partnership with Manna? So how can the people of Manna, help you learn more about hunger and food scarcity? The other question is something that I think about a lot with our parish partners is, what are the barriers to connecting relationally to feeding folks at Manna? That we're very, very grateful for the food, and we'd love for folks to be with us at other times, either during your Monday meal time or at other times, to get to know some of these folks that you're feeding. And they would love it, and it would enrich. I believe it would enrich you as well. And the last question is, Advent is a season of anticipation and hope in the incarnation of Jesus. And how do you imagine your feeding ministry at All Saints becoming more incarnational?
Great. And Richard's put those questions in the chat, so you don't need to write them down when we move into breakout sessions.
So-
Before we do, Wendy, also in the chat, could you please, yesterday you explained the meaning, the acronym of the Manna. Could you type that again in the chat?
I can actually.
Okay, hold on. Great.
Okay.
I'm screenshot. Okay. Oh, I
Oh, I
lost
will.
it. Many
We'll get you.
angels.
We can
Okay.
get you these slides. We can get you the
Okay.
slides. Yeah. So yeah, I think, thank you, Maggie. Maggie put it in the chat. So I think we should move into the next phase here, and Richard is going to do the magic of getting us into breakout rooms. And I assume, Jennifer, you want to be in one? Be assigned?
Of course, sure.
Yep. Okay.
I'm not sure how we pick which group does which question. I guess I feel like people should feel moved to discuss whichever one sort of speaks to them.
There are 3 rooms and 3 questions, so yeah, I won't be too prescriptive about which question you all do, but
Can you just randomly assign us, Richard, to start with, or not?
Yes.
The rooms you will go into breakout rooms, and if you're in room 1 and you want to do question 1, by all means, and room 2 to do question 2, and room 3 do question 3, that's fine. And you'll be in there for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. Okay, so off you go.